Thank you. Right?
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate your patience. I apologize for all those technical difficulties. I'm gonna go ahead and call to order the Morgan Hill Planning Commission meeting. Jenna, if we can go ahead and please start the roll call with attendance.
Thank you, Chair Habib. Chair Habib,
Aye. Here.
Aye. Vice Chair Lake,
Here.
Commissioners Mueller,
Here.
Downey,
Here.
Adamo,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
and Commissioner Lovato has an excused absence.
Okay, and if I could please have Commissioner Lake, you may do the pledge of allegiance and lead that.
Before proceeding to the declaration of it.
Oh, yes. Can you do that, please, Sam?
Thank you, Chair Habib. Tonight's meeting agenda was duly noticed and posted in accordance with Government Code Section 54954.2.
Okay, I'll ask everyone to stand and face the flag for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
And the United States of America.
You, Commissioner. Okay, we are going to go ahead and start the public comment. This is where members of the public are entitled to address the planning commission concerning any items within the Morgan Hill Planning Commission subject matter jurisdiction. Public comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes, except for certain specific exceptions. The commission is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any items not appearing on the posted agenda. So just for some clarification, we're opening public comment for items that are not currently on agenda. So items that are not related to the Morgan Hill DevCo site off of Barrett and Hill. So anything aside from that you'd like to address the planning commission on, you may do so by coming up and filling a public comment card. Otherwise, you can also check on Zoom.
I'd also like to take a moment to remind the audience how to make public comments. If you're joining us today using Zoom, feel free to use the raise hand feature. If you're calling in by phone, you can use the raise hand feature by dialing *9 and then *6 to speak. And we are live on Facebook and on Zoom. You can also send us an email at pcpubliccomment@morganhill.ca.gov. I don't see any speakers.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Once again, we will have an opportunity for those who are wanting to talk about today's item in the public hearing section of today's agenda. Thank you, Jenna. We're going to go ahead and move to the orders of the day. So first, we'll start with the minutes approval for July 14th. Any motions from the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Jenna, would you like to roll call, please?
Yes, hold on one moment. Chair Habib.
Aye.
Commissioners Lake,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Downey,
Aye.
Adamo,
Aye.
and Wilson.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0-0-1.
Thank you, Jenna. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to the public hearing. This is most likely what we have many comments that were submitted to the commission for, as well as those joining us in person and online. So first, we are going to open the public hearing. This is for the request of a tentative subdivision map for 320 residential lots on a 69.4 acre site located on the northwest quadrant of Hill Road and Dura Avenue. And what I'll do is I will go ahead and hand it off to city staff for a presentation, and then we'll follow that by opening and closing the public hearing period. and going to back to the commission for any discussion and a recommendation or a resolution. So,
Chair, I
Yes.
was gonna have, overseen comment by staff before we started the presentation.
yes, so what I was gonna wait for is after the presentation, before it comes back to commission discussion, to bring that guidance for the commission in regards to the item that we have within our discussion.
Okay, great. Good evening, my name is Tiffany Brown, I'm a senior planner with the planning division. Here tonight to present the tentative subdivision map for the New Horizons Hill Morgan Hill Devco project. Starting off with the project site and location. This is an approximate 69-acre site located on the northeast corner of Hill Road and Barrett Avenue. The general plan designates the site as residential detached medium. The zoning is also residential detached medium with precise development plan development. The approved plan development with precise master plan was adopted in 2024, along with the environmental impact report that was a project-specific analysis for this project. Therefore, the map falls under the CEQA approval and is to adhere to all the mitigation measures within. As part of the plan development, we're looking at the tentative map tonight for conformance with what was approved as part of the master plan. As part of that master plan, there were two specific substantial public benefits that are related to the map. One of them is the dedication of 4 acres of common open space. The second one is the roundabout at Hill Road and Barrett Avenue intersection. In addition to those substantial public benefits, there were other parts of the project that were outlined in the plan development. That includes the dedication of 1.76 acres to Jackson Park and also a public trail. This is not meant to be readable, so don't worry. It is just to show that the plan development has outlined the different types of lot sizes and standards, which we will also review tonight for conformance with the approved tentative map. Before us is the proposed tentative map, and it highlights the different greens. So the dark green is the public park area adjacent to Jackson Park. The brighter green is the common open space that is provided throughout the project. And then the red dashed line is the trail connection. The table at the bottom summarizes the consistency with the approved PD in the tentative map. So the PD had 320 lots. The proposed map has 320 lots. The common open space requirement was 4 acres. They have gone above with 5.3 acres. The public park dedication is slightly under what was approved, and it is in substantial conformance. And they will pay the fee for the remainder that is not part of the project. And the trail connection is there as planned in the master plan. This is the map that showed the different colors of the different size lots within the PD that was approved. The map on top is what was approved and adopted. The map on bottom is the lots that are proposed. And you can see the summary table on the right. So in the different colors, you have the different size lots, and those are the minimums. So a lot of these lots exceed the minimum, but that's the way the standards are written. So originally for the 70,000 square foot and more, there were 64 lots and we have 63. The 5,000 square foot, we went from 159 to 166. The 3,000 or more went from 42 to 36. And then the other two remain the same, in totaling 320 lots. This is also in substantial conformance with the PD. As the project progresses and more details are confirmed, like stormwater, things get shifted a little bit, and you understand that you need maybe more park area dedication to meet stormwater. And so therefore some lots had to shift. But they remain with the correct number of lots and are in substantial compliance. This highlights the hexagon report that was prepared for the project and adopted as part of the EIR and the LOS study. So part of the PD pulls the requirements from the hexagon report that was prepared and made it a requirement of the future project. So on the left, these are the key items that are required and what we're looking for. So there is a roundabout at Hill and Barrett intersection required as part of the PD. Before us tonight, we have a map. The map is the property only. It does show the roundabout at Hill and Barrett. This is not its final design. This is still in the process. So the process of designing that portion of the project continues with the design permit. And then gets really close to its final. It's pretty set at that point by design permit, and then at offsite improvements, that's when they get down into the nitty gritty details of where the plants go, et cetera, along with the plan for building permits. So that's the process for that. But tonight is just the map. So the discussion about the roundabout location and the impacts is not on tonight's map. It is just here and as part of the PD. The Hill Road widening for westbound left turn lane onto Fountain Oaks Drive and a new sidewalk and bicycle path. So the new sidewalk and bicycle path is on Hill Road and the improvement is on Fountain Oaks Drive. This is a requirement of the circulation. A traffic circle at Barrett's entrance into the community. So if you look at the map in front of you, and this is part of the map because it is part of their property. This is the traffic circle here. Hopefully you can see my mouse. So this is the entrance, the main entrance to the residential property. Additionally, the hexagon report requires a four-way stop sign at Fountain Oaks Drive and Sorrel. And so you can see part of this plan, we are connecting Sorrel, so it will go all the way through to Dunn, and then there's the stop sign right here at Fountain Oaks that's required. Again, the hexagon report did analyze the traffic and the circulation and found this to be the appropriate circulation plan for the project and was approved as part of the PD. The project was publicly noticed and known to property owners within 600 feet. The site was posted and also updated on the city webpage. We did receive 9 public comments that were forwarded to you when I wrote this report. I think maybe a few more trickled in as we were sitting here, but there's about 9 roughly, give or take. And then the next steps for this project would be a design permit. That design permit does come back to planning commission. And then they would apply for the building permits, the associated on and off site improvements. And then they go to construction plan. So that's where you would talk about what roads would be closed at that time or for that phase. Staff is recommending to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution that approves the tentative subdivision map with conditions of approval. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm here for any questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
Did you want to clarify something first or?
Yeah, so maybe what I'll do is I'll have a clarification, after the questions.
Yeah.
And so that way the public can also hear before we open for public comment, and then the rest of the commission can also hear. But right now, if there's any clarifying questions for city staff.
No. I have
Go
a
ahead.
small few questions. Tiffany, some of these are related to some of the questions that came through the emails as well, and I apologize, I only saw some of the emails very late, so I'm trying to do as much as I could. Might be an obvious question, but the EIR that was done in 2024, still legally valid EIR?
Yeah.
There's no legal requirement, you don't need to refresh it, we look at it, it's still a valid EIR, right?
That is correct.
Good. another kind of obvious question, but, we list, I think I know the answer, but I'm asking it publicly. The roundabout at Hidden Barrel is seen as a substantial public benefit. I'm not sure everybody would agree with you. Why do we think it's a substantial public benefit? What's the reason to say that? Is it because of its easement of the traffic flow or?
There's a couple answers to that. So there was the hexagon report that was prepared that provides the hard data analysis as to why the roundabout is better than a four-way signal. And or four-way stop for short. And so the data, for one, shows it is. In addition to that, when the circulation was reviewed as part of the project, it showed that it's significant benefits, not just this project, but the community and the growing community around it. Because of how the traffic circle efficiently moves cars through, but still has to slow down in that way. So those are the two critical ones that we feel are very important as part of the project.
Just for the public can get around better, maybe move better flow in general is the idea. Okay.
Absolutely.
If I could just add, it was approved as a substantial benefit through the PD when that was
It
approved.
was, okay, okay. All right. This main entrance, traffic circle. Better known as a roundabout, right? I mean, isn't it the same thing? You call one a traffic circle, one a roundabout, what's the difference?
Sides,
The words, what is it?
the sides of the circle.
Good,
Yeah, I had to ask the same question.
okay,
Yes, so it's just the size, based on the types of roads that it's serving and being, the auxiliary versus neighborhood, et cetera. So that's the difference.
and, okay, and then last question. The vast majority of the feedback in here is about traffic.
Correct.
By the way, I don't know how many years we've been talking about this with developers and so on, but we have the same concerns, right? I mean, we live in town too, and we see the concerns, but again, just to reiterate, the traffic studies that were done by Hexagon.
Yeah.
I mean, your feedback is that's all in compliance, so they've determined that what is being constructed, the roads, the roundabouts, the flow. I'm not going to. What am I getting at?
Discussion and we need some clarification from city staff for that.
When will I ask this question? Yeah, okay. So that study still stands, and also there's no, from your analysis of staff, the traffic flow is okay from the perspective of what we're needing, what the requirement is.
Yes, and they would have made recommendations if they thought there was a way to make it better. So what is approved for the PD is what they thought was the best solution for the project.
All right, great, thanks. Yes, sure.
Further clarifying questions? Further clarifying questions specifically for today's presentation? Okay, I would like to bring it back to city staff. I know I had that discussion with you earlier around maybe defining the scope for the planning commission. I think it's good time for also the public to get some context around what it is that we have in front of us for today's planning commission meeting, just for some clarification. Then, Commissioner Downey also.
Yes, thank you, Chair Reed. So we are here today to consider approval of a tentative map. So approval of a tentative map requires that the commission find that it is consistent with the general plan and any applicable special plans. There are limited grounds for denial that are set forth in our municipal code. Those grounds include things like findings of inconsistency with the general plan or a specific plan, or findings that the site isn't physically suitable for development. Under the state subdivision map act, a tentative map is defined as, and I'll just read from the statute. A tentative map is made for the purpose of showing the design and improvement of a proposed subdivision and the existing conditions in and around it. And it need not be based upon an accurate or detailed final survey of the property. Just kind of wanted to kind of frame, hopefully that's helpful as far as framing the discussion. As Ms. Brown mentioned, there are still further approvals required after the tentative map, including design review, and then ultimately a final map.
Thank you. So maybe just a point of clarification too. So, as I'm understanding it, things related to, whether the housing belongs here, density, environmental impact before, the substantial benefit, those are off, of today's, resolution for what the planning commission is gonna be deciding.
And correct, those determinations have been made previously on the previous applications that have been approved. And so, hey, once again, the item before you tonight is just the tentative subdivision map to make sure that it's consistent with the precise development plan for the project that was approved in 2024.
Okay. And so, maybe for clarification, this might also help, commissioners as well as the public, can you help maybe explain or refresh our memories on what a tentative map is?
So the tentative map is an approval of what the lots would look like. There could be some deviations later on, but it is approving the map that is attached to the resolution as Exhibit A. Labeled as tentative map for this project within the staff report. And so it's created the actual lots and they would have to submit a final map to report it.
Okay. So as I'm understanding, you had the approval, have now the map based off that approval, and so that's, things like where the lots are gonna be, where the streets are gonna be, where the parks, trails, etc.
Chair, can I ask one clarifying question?
Yeah, please.
So just on the same vein, because it's called a tentative map, does that mean it could change, or how much could it change? Because obviously for the public to see, this is the layout, and it wouldn't come back and be substantially different, right? Or could it be different?
Correct, it cannot be substantially different, it would have to be, basically, there could be a minor deviation where like a lot line moves over a couple inches or a foot, but it would have to match this map that's being approved tonight. If there's any substantial changes, we have to come back to the approval process.
Back to this process again?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And maybe another clarifying question too is, as I'm understanding the timelines, there's, I believe, a 60-day or 90-day timeline. Can you explain or clarify that timeline, please?
Yes, for housing developments, once an EIR has been completed and we receive an application for a project, there is a 60-day timeline to review the project at a planning commission or city council here for either recommendation of approval or final approval, approval with conditions or denial. The application was deemed complete on June 14th, 2026. And so 60 days from that date would be August 14th, 2026, which is the reason why we are here today before your commission, asking to open and close the public hearing and to make either a recommendation for approval or not an application.
So essentially, I guess as we're understanding the commission, our vote really is either approve or deny the item that we had before. Continuance essentially would mean that we're gonna be in 3 days past that deadline. And if we then feel to either approve or deny before that deadline, that automatically will go into approval.
Correct. If there's not a decision tonight, by August 14th, that will be deemed approved.
Okay, so really either the denial or approval will need to be made.
Okay, may I clarify
Yes,
just one thing? A tentative map is approved by the planning commission. Okay, so we're gonna deny or approve. Okay, it would not go to city council unless appealed.
Correct. The planning commission is the final decision making body for this item.
and to clarify, if it does get appealed, that's still not within the timeline. Or does that extend that timeline?
Address that. The timelines for an appeal are set forth in the municipal code, so if it falls, in my understanding, if it falls outside of the 60-day window, we're okay. The municipal code, deadlines for the appeal.
Okay. Thank you. Any other clarifying questions on the presentation before we open to public comment?
Yes,
Please.
I think, given all the interest, before we go to public comment, we ought to get an understanding how many speakers we have.
Mhm.
So that if we have a large number of speakers, we may want to consider shortening the time to 3 minutes, let's say two, or whatever, depending on the number.
Thank you for that consideration, Commissioner. And,
We have 8 speakers in person. So far, 8 speaker cards. And I see only 1 raised hand, but maybe we can reevaluate that with 1 speaker.
yeah, so I would like to preferably give, the public as much time as you can, so we keep that to 3 minutes. And for any of the public that is joining or, folks on Zoom, would you like to please make that announcement on how they can go ahead and partake in, public comments?
Thank you, Chair. If you're joining us today using Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature. If you're dialing in by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to speak. You can also send us an email at pcpubliccomment@morganhill.ca.gov.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenna. Now I'd like to officially open the public hearing. And if you may, please start with the items that we have for this speaker cards.
Yes.
We should start with that.
We're gonna start with Glenda Garcia.
Please, go.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. Thank you, planning commissioners, for allowing us tonight for our request for a tentative map
Yes.
for New Horizons.
Thank you. Sorry, it's Linda.
Glenda,
So just for clarification, the applicant does have 10 minutes. So Jenna will go ahead and start that time. Thank you.
thank you. Well, I feel Tiffany already did a very, very good job. Everything I'm going to say, Tiffany's already said for me. But I will go ahead and move forward. We're here.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. As you have been told, it is at Hill and Barrett. It's a 69-acre project. And we've been in planning for over 6 years with design and redesign. We've worked closely with the city staff, of which I must tell you, it's been a lot of work for all of us and our team of engineers. Our plan development's been approved, our EIR was approved, traffic and transportation's approved. Stormwater and drainage plan were in the final review and planning stages with Public Works. We met with our neighbors. We had social media, so we had lots and lots of comments. We took their advice. We had a 3-story apartment that was going to be strictly for seniors, and they didn't want a 3-story. We took it out. So. We're right. We have 4 acres of open space. We have a wonderful, we're going to be enlarging Jackson Park, which is right next to Jackson Academy of Music and Math. We have public parks. We have back paths, walking trails, dog park. And we're working on the off-site improvements. What the city tells us to do will be done. That's how the EIR report reads, and that's how we will move forward. I won't reinvent a new road without the city's permission. The public art, and one of the artists is here tonight. He's a local artist. We have a 280-foot long mural that Anthony will be painting, and it's going to be the history of Santa Clara County. We're starting with the Ohlone Indians. We're going all the way through, even to talk about Mr. Jensen of NVIDIA. So we want people to know who we are and what's been happening here. In summary, we are happy that public benefits, the traffic mitigation, the open space, lots of local jobs will be created during this construction. And then I think the best thing is there'll be property taxes coming into the city. But I think you're all going to be very proud that we will have a true new neighborhood of single-family detached homes. I thank you all for your attention and for letting me speak. Thank you.
And I just want to minute, and then if there's any questions from the commission. Clarifying questions.
Our engineers are here and DR Horton is here, so everyone's very excited. And if you have any questions, you can pick on my engineers. They do with me all the time, so you guys pick on them. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Jim Corson.
Good evening, honorable commissioners. For the record, it's Jim Crossan. Thank you. I'm a retired corporate attorney, a 44-year resident of Jackson Meadows. And I'm the son of an industrial project architect of many years who's passed on. He was also a member of the Danville Planning Commission. I've been around through my naval service and through watching him growing up. I've been around projects for almost 70 years. Projects of this complexity and this impact. Independent of the merits that including in the state, local, federal, county, political issues, I rise tonight to object to the lack of a mid-project exit entrance on Hill Road. It is a public safety issue of the first order. I'd like to make 2 points. Natural and man-made disasters are foreseeable. Towards 101, if it's foreseeable, one must attempt to mitigate the risk. In the time I've been in Jackson Meadows, I've seen dry lightning light the valley floor on fire. The 1984 and 89 earthquakes caused people movement around the valley. Just 3 or 4 years ago, a fire that started on the backside of Livermore threatened Jackson Oaks and required evacuation. And Jackson Meadows was on 30-minute evacuation notice. My point, you can't do anything about acts of God, but you know they're going to occur. My second point, it's also foreseeable that Fountain Oaks, Barrett Avenue, Saddleback are not by themselves capable of orderly and safe evacuation of over 3,000 people under emergency conditions. You may want to wish that the act of God doesn't occur requiring such an evacuation, but our experience with the fire 3 years ago tells us those roads jam up easily. I would observe that during school days, Barrett Avenue and Fountain Oaks are a parking lot just for the drop off of kids who aren't coming to school in a bus. My ask is simply this: take a 50-year perspective and build a third Hill Road access egress route for safety, even though it is not a minimum compliance requirement. I understand that Rocky and Glenda are in the business of meeting requirements, minimum compliance requirements. I'm overtly asking you to go beyond that and anticipate needs over the next 50 years. Bridging over the federal water line along Hill Road is not a bridge too far, and it will save lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Darcy Foster, followed by Francis Columbus.
First of all, a big thanks to all the folks who came tonight, who saw my post on Nextdoor after shoot. Commissioners, it's good to be here with you tonight. I've been involved in this project for 37 years. I can prove it, but the most recent developer has only been the last 6. My concern is program as it stands that keeps changing. Residents of Jackson Meadows, Holiday Lake, and Jackson Oaks continue to remind the developer they don't address the impact on traffic for already very busy commute roads. The road in East Dunn, remembering that East Dunn is the only way down from the hill. The developer does not address the increased load on police and fire support, power and water service. We have a concern, we have problems with water and electricity now. The impact of increased traffic accessing East Dunn via the back exit is not addressed. We had to cut down one of the turns where people cannot exit. When Hill Road from Barrett County easily entered, residents have to backtrack to East Dunn, already heavily traveled route. It's a serious safety issue, supported by recent requests to evacuate, as was mentioned, during a fire emergency. The roundabout that is being suggested does not in any way address commercial traffic. Hill Road is a commercial road. Yellow Farms has huge trucks that come down Hill Road. How they would traverse a roundabout, I do not know. So I'll just put that out for you folks. The negative enrollment impact on the three closest schools, Jackson, Britton, and Nordstrom, it's not even being considered, wasn't even being addressed by the city. The proposed cost of any of these homes has not been communicated. Nobody knows how much these, I have read up on them. The homes are anything but affordable. The engineering team for the builder has been unable to supply construction timetables over the past 6 years when I was working to accomplish even the most rudimentary pre-construction amendments. There seems to be no idea how long residents will be impacted even before building starts. My overriding concern is, gentlemen, the development as designed is too ambitious for the acreage involved and the access roads leading to and from the property, considering 320 some houses, we have probably 700 vehicles. Potentially. The project should therefore be downsized. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Francis Columbus.
Good evening, honorable commissioners. I read all of the written comments that you got. And these are comments, concerns that people have raised, not just at this meeting, but through the course of this project. I fail to see why we would want to force all the traffic through the existing communities. It would be an utter nightmare for us. It seems so simple to build the main entrance onto Hill Road. Why not? The other thing is the safety concern for the children at the Jackson Academy of Math and Music. You're going to force people going down Fountain Oaks. Why would we do that? That's the major thoroughfare that these people use to get to and from school. And then in the morning, when you're commuting to work, you're competing with them. We've talked about egress during a disaster. That's a problem. And then, of course, the issues of the overstressed utilities, the water, the power utilities. I can tell you, I've lived here for about 11 years now and have experienced multiple blackouts because just the power infrastructure can't handle the existing community. Without major improvements, how could this community possibly exist here? I'm not going to repeat everything that everybody else said, but please do consider these concerns. They're being repetitively raised, and it doesn't seem like they're being addressed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Alexi.
Well, city chair. So I want to start with a very small moment over here. So first of all, I want to point back in regards to zoning itself. So to deliver planned development, it's a privilege. It's not an obligation for the city. So original zoning was for 9,000 and 7,000 square feet for a lot. But right now we have little bit different layout of this proposed solution. And it addresses the problem with the actual traffic. So second point I want to discuss is about the actual traffic screening. So data we have attached to this project was collected on the at 2019, but right now it's 2026. So I would like to get new recent data regarding the traffic itself. And second moment is about the date when it was collected. So it was the beginning of the June of 2019. So some of the private school, like Oakwood School, already closed their doors for a summer break. So you can see less amount of the traffic control. Some of the private school in the San Jose closed their doors, which means that less traffic on the one-on-one, and it resulted less traffic on the any parallel roads to the one-on-one. So I would really advise to get the better numbers to be sure that we can make really good decision in regards to the planning itself. So second part is regarding the actual table we have listed in the traffic screening, it's table number 12. So also we have very huge number of the cars going through the Fontaine Oaks Drive. It's already having something like 1,700 cars going each day. And along with this new construction proposed use additional 1,200 of new cars from Fontaine Avenue itself. So in general, it results into 2,800 of the traffic. And it's actually a huge amount of the traffic for a very small amount of the road we have in between the Fontaine Avenue and the Hill Road. So that forward piece of the road will create a huge problem because of limited visibility. And even if there is a proposal to introduce the stop signs, like four-way stop sign over there, it will not solve the problem because all way stop sign has limited traffic. So it will create lines in both directions, etc. So right now, during the rush hours into the school, it creates traffic jam over there. So we need to address it in some way. And yeah, so the main moments is mostly about the Fontaine Avenue. So I do propose maybe to close this road and end up with a cul-de-sac in the end, with maybe at most 5 extra houses. So in this case, it will not introduce any extra traffic on the Oaks Drive, Fontaine Oaks Drive, and it will keep this part of the city and the neighborhood in very safe and calm condition like it right now. Because I think we probably will not be able to handle extra 1,200 of the cars on this Fontaine Avenue, so it's very limited visibility, it's going in one direction, and it's very difficult for drivers to have proper estimate of the traffic condition because of this layout of the street. Thank you.
Okay.
We have Mitch Graham.
Good evening, council. My only credentials are I live on Trail Drive and Barrett. So my concern, and I'm friendly with a lot of my neighbors, our biggest concern is what's going to happen to Barrett and how you can funnel that many people into 320 houses off of Fountain Oaks and Barrett. It's like some have said in the past, my wife and I have a perfect view of Barrett. We live facing Barrett on Trail. And so in the mornings, we'll have coffee and sit by the window, talk. And we call it the Jackson Academy Parade. Because it starts at about 7:45 and it ends at 8:30. And I don't know how many cars. That's not including Fountain Oaks, all the people that are taking their kids there.
nobody has said anything about this yet, but I understand the need for housing. I don't disagree with it, but some of the planning doesn't take into effect the incredible, like the first speaker said, the safety of this neighborhood when everything is funneled in those two streets for all these new housing. One thing that I'm not sure of, somebody said that they would close Barrett for 3 years to build this. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's gonna take a long time to do that construction. Where does all the traffic go during that construction? Is it gonna be a one-lane road in and out? I don't know that. So my main concern is the safety, the quality of life. We want everybody to have a good quality of life. I can't understand why they cannot make an ingress off of Hill. I don't get it. There's plenty of room there. You can make an ingress. Somebody said something about the water comes from San Luis to Los Gatos on Hill Road. Okay, I never knew that, but like he said, you could put a bridge over that. Something has to be done to protect the people that have been living there. We're almost 20 years. That's my comment. I just think it needs to be rethunked a little bit. Thank you.
The next speaker is Lynn.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight, Commission. I have 2 key points. First, we need affordable housing in the community, but this development is not giving us enough on-site affordable units. It says in your report, the Planning Commission staff report on pages 2 and 12, it says that 15% should be affordable housing. But in lieu of those 9 units that are not included in that, the developers now paying an in lieu fee. This should not be allowed. So this does not serve your constituents. This is not legal per city requirements, from what I understand. Why is the city allowing this? My solution is do not add more units, but make 9 of the current units already included in the plan to be affordable housing to comply with city regulations. Second point. Let's try. Good. Okay, good. All right, here you go. All right. According to your Planning Commission staff report, pages 5 and 10, and Appendix J, Transportation Report, pages 14 through 20. Currently, our LOS, which are, some people may not know, is a level of service that means that that's how they rate the traffic in that area. Currently, on the corner of Hill and Barrett, the LOS is rated A through D. And according to your report, I don't know if yours or the city's report, by 2030, when they plan to open this development, Hill and Barrett will be rated E to F. That is completely unacceptable, not only to us as a community, but to our, as many people said, to our emergency service vehicles. E through F. That's what you're gonna do to us? So for the people who don't know, LOSE means traffic is at or near capacity, unstable flow with significant delays and frequent backups. LOSF is forced or breakdown flow, gridlock, traffic demand is higher than capacity, causing long stop and go queues. This is one of the main arteries to go in and out of our neighborhood for hundreds of homes. This does not serve your constituents or the community emergency services. So there's been talk about a roundabout. So that roundabout, to put that one in that corner, from what I understand, roundabout has to be really big. So there's 3 homes on 3 of those corners. So are you gonna get rid of those homes, buy them out, flatten that out, create a big roundabout? What size do you need for that? When would it go in? Or I do propose maybe a solution is to put in a traffic light. And according to your transportation report, Appendix J, pages 14 through 20, putting in a traffic light is suggested there, and doing so will make it an LOSB as in boy rating as per your report.
Thank you for your time.
Brian? And that's all.
Hi, thanks for having us here tonight. The other speakers have covered a lot of great stuff. I think they covered many great things. What I read from some of this paperwork, the LOS or the LOF, what is it, LOS? So A through F. I mean, I live in the area, I haven't lived there that long, but the roads aren't great. I don't know if you guys have driven around over there. They're not great. And they're A through D, and now we're going to make them D through F. I mean, I thought, you know, D, E, F, I thought those were failing grades. Why are we saying that's okay to have roads that meet that requirement? I would think we'd be wanting better roads. So that's an issue. The issue of access, if I've heard this from multiple people that Barrett may be closed down for a significant amount of time, maybe years, that's going to severely impact. I heard earlier the quality of life of people in that neighborhood, the safety. How do we think that's acceptable? Does that reducing our quality of life and our access and our egress, is that considered acceptable to the city council? I'm just not sure how these things normally go. I'm new to this type of environment. So I would like you guys to just consider that. Thank you.
Dolores Alvarado.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for all the work that you're doing on this. It's very important work, and that's why I think we have to address this cautiously and with perhaps way more input than what you've had. And I do understand that you send out flyers and all that, and I'm sure we met the minimum qualifications for that. I'm going to be speaking more about the process. My name is Dolores. And a lot of my family members live right around Jackson Meadows. We moved here, my husband and I moved here with our children, 1994, went to Jackson School, not the academy. And what struck me about moving here is the openness, the value of having open space very close to your home, the value of having lots of areas to play around the schools, around the homes. And the thought of having 320, whatever the number is, density plus 2 to 3 cars per unit or per home is pretty scary, and that I don't think that what you presented today is really very convincing. I concur, I agree with all of the, comments that were made here earlier in writing specifically. And I do think if there's an opportunity is that you may want to consider bringing in a different population that lives in the district, who don't speak English perhaps, who have not been made aware either by their own doing or somebody took the information, because I really think that folks really need to understand what's going to happen to our neighborhood. Like the gentleman right before me, our backyard where we can look at our kitchen sink kind of thing, see the water, the path, before that our children would just jump over the fence and go to school, they didn't even have to go around it. So every day when I go to work in San Jose, it takes me a solid half hour to get out of where I live on Vista del Valle to all the way, to 101. So it's scary to say yes to something that is well put together. There's no doubt there. But do we all understand it? Does the community truly understand it? And I think there's a community in near Jackson Meadows that perhaps would not have a clue of what this means. So if you could consider having another session like this one in a different language, perhaps 2 different languages, I think that would be a very inclusive thing to do. You might be thinking, oh geez, we don't have time. Well, we do have time because that's what we're here for. We're here to serve our community. So thank you for listening and thank you for your work. Appreciate it very much.
Okay, I have one more green speaker cards from the audience. Is there anyone else who would like to speak from the audience? We still have speakers online. Do you want to come up, sir? If you can please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Calvin Thomas, and I've lived in the neighborhood for 30 years. I don't know if any of you live in the neighborhood. If you do, you certainly understand the concerns, especially the ability to get in and out of Barrett. I also want to speak to the concern that's been raised several times, the open question of, is Barrett going to be closed during the construction? Now, I think the biggest problem with this type of forum is we all have questions that nobody will answer those questions. You all get to sit there, hear what we have to say, but nobody will address those things. So what I would love to see is a forum where the builder and where the city can sit down with us, the members of the community, hear our concerns and answer them, as opposed to just kind of sitting silently back there. And then we wonder, do you really hear us? Because I've attended a couple of these meetings already, and the same concerns come up. And yet, at no point have I heard an answer to any of those concerns. Let's have a forum where we can speak to you and you can answer us. Thank you.
Maybe before we go back to the applicants, I just want to see if anyone else has would like to make public comment in the audience. We also have 2 speakers online. Let's move to Zoom. Kelly Stover on Zoom.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, you can hear me? My view of you just dropped out. My name is Kelly Stover. I've lived in the Mirabella Circle since 1995. My concern is I was able to quickly look over the list of documents. I wasn't able to actually read some of them. They seem to be locked. But what I didn't see listed was any kind of risk assessment from any, for example, a crime assessment from the Morgan Hill or the county sheriffs. I did not see a fire risk assessment from either CAL FIRE or the Morgan Hill PD. I did not see an insurance assessment from the the state commissioner. So, and emergency services. All of these things may be connected to transportation. In fact, a lot of it is. And I know that other people have raised up the concern of having either Barrett closed for extended period of time or not having the access directly from Hill Road. What I would say to this is the risk of there's a certain inconvenience to not being able to have all your traffic for this development go in and out directly onto Hill. And it's inconvenient, so that reduces our quality of life. But the bigger question to me personally is that the risk that this increased traffic and lack of ability to evacuate or for emergency services to get in, first responders to get in, is that you could really wind up with people dying or people being severely injured because of that lack. And I think that, certainly will put the city at risk as well. And I think insurance companies are going to be able to notice this increased risk and raise the cost of insurance here, which is also a financial burden on the community here. So I want to raise this, and I agree with the previous speaker that it would really be good to have the forum where these things, these questions get a response from the city on record of what you are willing to, what risk you are willing to take as the city of Morgan Hill, because you will be clearly sharing that risk with the residents here and with their new residents that will go into this development. Thank you.
Next, we have Joshua Saffron online.
Hopefully you can all hear me. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Joshua Saffron. I represent the Sanchez family, who are the owners and the residents of 2050 Barrett Avenue, just off the corner of this project. I want to thank city staff for including our written objections in the agenda packet and for adding some conditions that acknowledge our client's property and the potential impact from the proposed Hill Road and Barrett Avenue roundabout. And while we appreciate those draft conditions and that they now require some basic roundabout plans at the design review stage to minimize impacts to the Sanchez's property and require the developer to obtain necessary public rights of way before the final map is approved, it doesn't fully resolve the problem for us. For months, the Sanchez's have been trying to address these issues cooperatively and informally before they hired me. And then when I came on board, I helped them as best I could. And we're not trying to be obstructionists, but we are asking for basic information and assurances before the city approves this map and the offsite improvement framework that it may very well impact the Sanchez's home and their ability to access it. Months ago, we contacted the developer and requested the plans and a meeting to understand what is actually proposed at this intersection and how might it impact the Sanchez's and their neighbors. The developer referred us to their attorney, who declined to provide that information directly, declined a separate meeting with us, and told us to raise these issues through the city's public process. So that's why we're here tonight. It seems like an inefficient way to do things. The current conditions still defer too much. They say the roundabout plans will be revised later and that right-of-ways must be required later, whatever those right-of-ways may be. But they don't prohibit entry onto the Sanchez property or protect their driveway access. They don't require advanced construction notice. People have lives. They need certainty to be able to know if they're going to be able to get to work in the morning and have their kids go to school, etc. They don't require a survey with an exhibit showing the Sanchez's and everybody else for that matter, where exactly this roundabout's going to be, what it's going to do. And it doesn't require any kind of coordination beforehand, before construction proceeds. We don't think these protections are burdensome. We think they're kind of reasonable, basic safeguards whenever a public improvement is going to impact private property. So we respectfully request that the Planning Commission do one of three things: either continue the hearing so that the city, the county, the developer, and the affected property owners, including plenty of the people that spoke tonight, can have the information that we need to meaningfully understand what this project is going to do, or deny the tentative map without prejudice until those protections are in place, or at the minimum, add some specific conditions of approval that would provide the kinds of assurances that the Sanchez's and others are looking for. And those conditions should clearly state that approval of this tentative map does not authorize any interference with 2050 Barrett Avenue, that no driveway access is going to be adversely impacted, that no final map or associated permits or work may proceed if it requires or assumes use of the Sanchez property or anyone else's private property, and that the Sanchez's get to receive the revised plans, any right-of-way exhibits, traffic control plans, construction access plans before there are further approvals. So we ask that the commission not approve the map at this time because it effectively locks in offsite improvements that are potentially adversely affecting private property without any clear enforceable protections for the rights of the affected owners. Thank you very much for your time.
Would like to make public comment, either online or in person. I don't see any raised hands.
Thank you, Jenna. Actually, you had a question?
I was actually gonna just remind you that the applicant is allowed.
Can you remind me of the timing on the, Commissioner, the timing on the response?
Yeah, I don't remember writing the topic.
Yeah,
Probably no more than 5 minutes.
Can we have the applicant, come back, up, please?
Yes, we want to have Glenda Rocky Garcia come back.
And we'll get the responses limited to 3 minutes for him. Unless there's further follow-up questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rocky Garcia. I just had two minor comments. One, next to the park, we're working with the city for a well site. They're gonna be they've been drilling out there as we speak. And hopefully we'll have a well site next to the park. The second thing is regarding the roundabout of the traffic circle. We can say that we're very proud that we did the very first roundabout traffic circle at Capriano in the city of Morgan Hill. It works. Linda?
Your questions about the roundabout, our engineers are here, they can answer them. As I said, you're my experts. I don't know, do you have anything else you want me to know?
Unless there are any questions from the commission specifically at this time for the applicant, because once we close, we won't be able to bring the applicant for any further questions. Any questions at this time? Yes, please.
Ask if Barrett is gonna be closed or anything.
I'm sorry, as for right now, we're currently in the applicant comment period. We will address comments that we have from the public and we'll make sure to ask as a city staff. Thank you.
Interestingly enough, that's what I was going to ask. If you have a comment to the closure or not of Barrett during construction.
It will not be closed for 3 years. That will not happen.
How long?
How long?
Let me answer that question. Number one, we will never close both of them at the same time. We will close Sorrel first. And then after that, then we would do Barrett. But more importantly, we will do it during the summertime and we would, after work, we would start at 9 o'clock or 9:30 after school. After school has started. During the summer, we're gonna do those two.
And Adam, I would assume that that is all part of the public works permit for that offsite work, traffic control, traffic closures, et cetera. Yes, and there's certain requirements on that. We have our method of engineer stuff here where we can discuss that, right? And we maintain standards throughout the city when we do that for standard approaches. And of course, it would be impossible to predict any of those dates right now.
Thank you. And before we move on, sorry, I would just like to add that there's a phasing plan of the project that has to be assessed. And so while there may be an idea of the different roads that could or would be closed first, we won't know that until we're ready and have those plans in front of us. And that's closer to ready to see construction.
So just to answer the specific question of, or is the claim that someone thought we're closing their road for 3 years, that is not the case, right?
That is correct.
There will be closures at certain developments during certain phases and certain times, but not for 3-year closure.
That's correct. So our engineers are here and they're happy to share the details and answer questions related to the traffic circulation, et cetera.
I think we'll come back to that.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant before we close public comment? Okay, so we will officially go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the commission. Before we do so, there were several questions that did come up during public comment that I have noted, and so if city staff may take a brief moment to answer some of those questions, as there were several that have come up consistently. So one was the Barrett closure. Do you know roughly a timeline on how long certain road closures may be?
Our city engineers are coming up to help you out with these questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm Christian Wallace. I'm supervising civil engineer here with the city of Morgan Hill.
Good evening, commissioners. Maria Angeles, senior engineer, land development engineer.
So to answer the question about Barrett, typically roads are not closed unless there is an absolute need for a full closure. The traffic may go down to one lane for a brief period of time to facilitate the construction, but full closures are a last resort. And that gets worked out during the encroachment permit process when the contractor has developed their traffic control plans, and we can see how they plan to phase out the public improvements. And that usually comes with reduction of hours, especially near a school zone or arterial roadways. So we take a look at that later in the process.
And as mentioned, traffic control plans are the means for us to make sure those are followed. And, closures, and then, Christian also mentioned about, during drop off pickups of school. And during the summer would be the best time to do that, any partial closures, and then evening work, should that be, also an option.
So to answer a specific question, I know dates are not set yet and so on, right? But are you anticipating full closures at some stage for some period of time?
I would think so, because for Barrett, there's a overlap, of the existing road and the future road. So there's some portion of it that you cannot not close it because you have to build it in order,
And would that be days, weeks, or are you on?
That's to be determined by the contractor. It's largely determined, they know their construction sequencing. That's usually why this is handled later in the process. Once a contractor's on board, they develop a plan on how to do it. With an existing roadway such as Barrett, usually they'll try to work on the fringes and then come into the inside so that the traffic can be maintained. And we'll be working with the contractor and the developer at that stage to try to minimize the impact. And any full closures, if necessary, will be the shortest amount of time that we can feasibly do that. And just trying to limit the impact of the traffic for the residents.
Sorry, can I follow up a little bit? First of all, you talked about, these are, in all likelihood, will be fairly short in closure time, or as short as you can make them, right?
Correct.
But we're not talking about many months in typical.
No.
Okay, how long in advance would we know so that we can inform the neighborhood as we're going through the construction of a large project like this, of when things are gonna happen? Especially related to the road project.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have several methods to communicate with the community. We have the Scoop, which is on the city's website. We have the Morgan Hill 411 that regularly put out updates on the status of the construction. Any closures are going to be noticed a minimum of 2 weeks in advance, and a certain radius from that street. The minimum is typically 600 feet, but that can be expanded depending on the impact. And so we would at least have 2 weeks notice and then follow-up notices as we get closer to the construction.
I would surely think the neighborhood would love to have warnings farther in advance that this is coming up, so that they have times to react. I mean, doing it in the summer while school's in session and things like that help, but 2 weeks notice that road might go down for a while, it seems a little short.
Yeah, so those are the minimums. We can absolutely work with the developer and the contractor to extend that time once a construction schedule has been set forth, as we get closer to construction.
Can you also set up like an email notification where people can sign up for these updates, so that we're not talking about necessarily 200 or 300 feet? It could be a much larger radius that are very interested in this, and that would be a way for them to get the information.
Yeah, so that's what the Morgan Hill 411 is, their email blasts to send out community updates. And so residents can sign up for those notifications and they'll get an email in that newsletter. It's much more citywide than localized, but that would be the email notification that you're asking.
We don't do project level emails like we do during the entitlement phase.
Not to my knowledge, no.
I mean, one thing to add is, when there's a contractor, on board, that the city requires the contractor to give notice. So if they think that it's certain houses will be impacted mostly, then that would be, I think they do door to door, if I'm not mistaken. So they actually want to talk to, right, give the
Yes.
information to the property owners.
That's also correct. And that's the 2-week notice.
Okay, there'll also be a phasing map, right?
Yes.
It'll give the phases of the project that are being built,
Yes, that's correct.
okay? When my time comes up, I'll ask another question.
Any other follow-up questions or any questions for?
And I have what, I know traffic is not part of this, but, I'm sorry, I know traffic is not really something that we can, turn down a tentative map for, right? But why was there not an access onto Hill directly?
So there's several factors that go into establishment of intersections. Hill Road is established a high entry network per our master plan. And so there's intersection distances to account for on our arterial roadways such as Hill Road, as well as creating those what we call conflict movements. So crossing a lane at high speeds creates a conflict movement, potential for injury. So we try to limit the amount of access points on a high speed. It's not intended to be high speed, but arterial networks. And so since there's an existing intersection there, the preference is to maintain and improve an existing intersection where these movements already occur, rather than creating a new one.
Right. So there's traffic safety concerns at arterial speeds that set a minimum distance. All right,
That's correct.
between intersections, especially if they're stops or traffic signals, so that everything can move. By interjecting a street too soon, you actually can cause more congestion than you would get if you didn't put it.
That's correct. Also with Tennant Creek and the water line along Hill Road, there's several agencies that get involved and they have their own say as well. It just adds to that complication of making that connection.
And the other complication you're gonna have is because you have several people and some laws that tell you when you can be near that creek.
That's correct.
And they have to be factored into the plan. And I know the public is asking a lot, but I hate to say it this way, but it's sort of a way to say it. We haven't gotten to that level of detail at this stage of the program. Right, to know a lot of the details that you're talking about yet. As was stated by the city attorney, right? This is a high level still, right? The details come in the next steps. And for the people who have been here for all the meetings, and I've been around for a couple of years on the planning commission, we hear you. We absolutely hear you and we understand what the issue is. It is just in any project, but especially one this large, we just don't know the fine details yet. And you combine that with the new state laws, which the city attorney addressed at the start of this meeting, we only have a few days to the new state law says this map will get approved. Okay?
That's correct.
So we have to either act with an approval or a denial or a condition. But we just don't have the leeway to say we can wait because the new streamlining laws just don't allow that.
That's correct.
So I guess maybe a follow-up question, because I think this also came up several times. Kaufman brought it up. Ryan also talked about this a little bit in public. Liz brought it up, Francis brought it up. And so it was really around traffic, right? And then the entire discussion around traffic, anywhere from the data being from 2019 to the traffic being so much where it can cause access issues, especially during evacuations. I think Jim mentioned that too, in situations where you have an active call or an emergency. Can you talk a little bit more about, or see stuff here about traffic, the impacts on access and how that can actually make a situation where it affects safety now?
Sure, Andy. Yeah, just add to that.
Yes.
It'll fall right in,
Yeah.
included. And then you covered it, the degradation of LOS rating.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure there's a response to that. Well, yeah. Access. Okay.
I just wanted to note the emergency access portion of the question. So the project was reviewed by our fire marshal and also our fire prevention team to look at access and pathways to get to not only the new residential proposed project residents, but also continued circulation to the adjacent residents, and found the project consistent with all our standards. So that's that part, and then I'll let him talk about the rest.
Sure, if it's related to
Yes,
evacuation, sure.
Sure. So, it's kind of an obvious question to me, is especially for the public here, is that, so you're saying that the fire marshal comes, the fire chief comes, and as an expert, he looks at one exit, right, out of a 320 unit, and he says, that's safe, right? Is that right?
Because there is more than one exit, so yes, you're right, there are standards, and there are standards for the number of residents and how many exits are required for projects.
Where is the other bit?
So there's one main entrance that we call the entrance to the neighborhood, but this whole project connects to the rest of the neighborhoods. Those are entrances and exits. So there's about 6 of them, and I could pull up a map. So you have Fountain Avenue.
You did have it.
Yeah,
No, I don't see anything.
Well, just pulling that up, it's at Fountain Avenue. Sorrel is being connected through the project, so that's a connection there. Barrett happens as,
Okay, I see it now.
And then in addition, there's 3 emergency vehicle access points at along Hill Road.
So just be clear that I don't want to be labor, but because it's a big topic, right? I know it's not really a consideration for this approval, but I think it's part of the address of public is here. So there isn't just one entrance. You can come in through other streets, right?
Right.
You can go out through other streets. So not everybody has to come down to the roundabout. Proposed roundabout. There's 3 to 4 different ways you can get in and out.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
Okay. So it's not like everybody comes to one spot. Not denying that, not denying.
Some of those that, where the public comment is closed. About this side street, I do appreciate that, and as of now, we're just gonna bring it back to the commission. Thank you.
So, okay, so again, just for public record, right? I was misunderstanding too, but there is multiple ways in, there's multiple ways in for emergency vehicles and out. And in the case of emergency evacuation, I assume all routes, maybe all routes, depending on the flow of traffic, could be utilized.
yeah, as far as an emergency evacuation, Tiffany can probably speak on this better, but it was brought up during the EIR. And compared against the strategic plan in the case of an emergency, and that was handled during the project's EIR.
Sure.
And just for a point of clarification, is it possible if you can point those out, so we're all clear on where those exits are?
And then before we get to another question, I have a statement to make.
Okay, so. This is Hill Road here, this is Barrett Avenue here. And there is one access point here to the project off of Barrett. There is one main access here. And then it connects, this project will connect Sorrel. So this connection goes here and all the way through to Dunn. And then there's also a connection here on Fountain. And that goes to Mountain Oaks, which then exits to Hill Road.
Commissioner Dunn, do you have any follow-up on the questions?
I think the only question maybe I haven't covered is the degradation of the
LOS rating?
Yeah, so the traffic analysis that was done with the project's EIR has identified degradation in the level of service at each intersection. Those are unmitigated level of service degradations, and then it recommends an improvement. So going to the roundabout specifically, it degrades the LOS at the intersection to E or F without mitigation. If you put in a signal there, it mitigates it up to level service B. And a roundabout brings that up to A, which is the best rating that you can get for an intersection. So those are the unmitigated impact to the project, and then it recommends improvements to bring that up to an acceptable level of service.
So can I just add that, sure? Again, for the, I can't remember which of them, but there was the perception that when this is all done.
Brian,
That perception was, or at least their understanding was, at the completion of the project, and with the flow of traffic, we'd be dealing with an E and F rating, but if we make the improvements as suggested, like for example, you said a roundabout, that the assessment says that will come back to a level A.
That is correct.
Okay, and then, I think you just answered the question, why a roundabout versus not a traffic light? I'm assuming you get a better, more flexible flow depending on people are going in and out of where they're coming from. Is that roundabouts give a better overall rating, right?
Yes, roundabouts move traffic more efficiently through an intersection rather than having to stop at a red light. You yield to different intersections as the volume demands. It's also speed mitigation along Hill Road. It's very long, very straight, very prone to speeding. So roundabouts naturally try to curb that speeding.
Which is a big net in the middle, let's catch everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. We should implement more of those. So the roundabout provides several benefits to an intersection as opposed to a standard signalized intersection.
And one other question came up, sorry, which I assume is industrial standard. How are trucks going to get around the roundabout? Of course, they're going to be able to get around the roundabout. It's going to be designed to allow a full 53-foot truck to get around, right?
That's correct. So during design review, we'll establish what we call the design vehicle, which is the largest vehicle anticipated to go through the roundabout. Larger trucks use what we call a truck apron, which is the concrete pad in the middle. And so the back wheels can sweep over that without damaging landscape, while the cab makes its movements around the intersection. So that'll be all analyzed during the design permit to ensure that those vehicles can make it through.
So before going on to the next question, there was a question about if there's not an approval or denial tonight, what happens? Then the question is shifted very quickly on the traffic. So one of the things I want to point out is that there's no decision tonight, or if there's a continuance or anything like that, it will be automatically approved on August 14th. But with that, there will be no conditions of approval because, as it's stated in the title, they are conditions of approval. The commission would have to approve the project with the conditions in order for those conditions to remain. If there is no decision, there are no conditions.
Okay, and just a clarification, in the instance of a denial, and if in an instance, for example, it's significant enough for not to be able to make the change to the tentative map, the denial would allow the opportunity to make the changes, right, to come back, or how would a denial work?
So the denial is based on certain findings, and the findings are that it's found that it's not consistent with the general plan, land association for the site. It's not consistent with the precise development plan for the planned development, the master plan for the site. And what was the third one? The third one is, I pulled this up.
The improvements inconsistent with the plans, this is with the general plan, the site to.
The third is, that's not in compliance with the subdivision map or the ordinance.
What's the?
That's not consistent with the subdivision map act or the subdivision map ordinance for the city.
So, I mean, from our standpoint, those are the three things we look at. From our standpoint, that's the three things we have to look at, right? I mean, is it consistent with the general plan? Yes, the density is within the allowed density, right? Second, is it in substantial compliance with the PD? I think it's been pretty well documented that it is in compliance with that. And I haven't heard any objection from anyone that says it's in defiance or not compatible with the city's tentative map ordinance or the state of California's laws. Right?
Yeah.
And we've tried to spend a few minutes here answering as many of the questions for the public as we can, but what we have to do to act on is we have to act on those three things. All right?
Yeah, I get that. I just want, I don't want more glare because I completely agree with you. I have no objection to what we have to address. But to be respectful of people that came, there's a couple of other questions I wouldn't mind getting a response to at least.
Yeah.
You know, if you wouldn't take, I know they're not direct related, but maybe just a quick response. And I don't know who the right people are. Charlie, but like, for example,
Just one moment, you had the floor, Commissioner, go ahead and use those two comments.
Well, my next action would be to make a motion. We could even do those questions you want answered in the discussion phase of the motion.
I would prefer just to answer now and then we can go.
That's fine.
Sure, but I mean, Commissioner, please.
So there was other questions came up. And I know they've been addressed because we know we do this every year, but can we just respond to the questions around the, you know, electrical impacts, water impacts, how are schools gonna deal with this? I know you've addressed all of them. Would you mind just answering those questions that were asked?
Yes, sure. So this project is proposing a density that was planned for in this area. So it's not exceeding the density that was evaluated as part of our 2035 general plan and for the EIR that was prepared for it, which analyzes the infrastructure that is required to support the development. So there is sufficient infrastructure for this development.
So for example, Valley Water, PGV would have assessed it and their response is, we have key services available to support this expansion, right?
Correct.
And the school district would have done the same. Okay, so they've all agreed.
The project was routed to all the school districts that would have been impacted by the new development, and they are mitigated with state or impact fees to support the growth of the school.
And then lastly, sorry, Chair, police and fire, please.
Correct.
They have also assessed and said,
We have enough infrastructure and police and fire to support it.
okay, I think those are all the ones I will put, unless anybody's any.
So Chair, you gonna ask people to comment or ask questions? Or are you gonna ask else? Other members?
Oh, yeah, so we will go around, we'll come right now, based off of the questions from the public. I think there was one other one, and I believe Liz had brought this up from the public, and this was around affordable housing. So if you can please address that one, that was around not meeting the 15% minimum requirement.
Yes, thank you. So we have inclusionary housing ordinance that requires a minimum of 15% or approval of paying an annual fee if the city finds that is preferred over providing that 15%. So what this project has done, instead of providing 15%, which is preferred by the city, to get the full annual fee payment, so we can do a more substantial project on that side of town. What they've done instead is require the third substantial benefit of EPD and this project. And that is to provide 55 lots that are affordable by design. The reason why that's not talked about now is because it doesn't pertain to the lot size itself, but to the size of the home. And so those lots and those home sizes are smaller and therefore considered affordable by design. So 55 will be restricted to a smaller size.
If I can bring up our housing and economic mobility director to address this question, I'm not sure if he heard the question, just walked into the room. But the question is about the inclusionary housing ordinance and how does this project meet that, or what the proposal is from city staff.
Good evening, Planning Commission, John Lang, Housing and Economic Mobility Director. For this particular project, when it was approved by council, as part of that approval and that agreement, the project is 100% fee out. There is no affordable units. under our inclusionary housing ordinance. Council does have the authority to grant 100% fee out on a project of this size. And that was part of the discussion with council entertaining, the review of this permit, some time ago. So the project is completely fee out. There are not going to be any affordable units under our inclusionary policy. And that is a power that the council does have for certain projects, allowing that to be considered, all things being considered, the project is being known.
Sure. And so just to confirm, that was already approved back in 2024 for the full fee out, where they don't have to build, but they can put money in a pot where it can otherwise be the customer.
Okay,
Go ahead.
everyone asks the same question.
Okay, I'm gonna ask John, just in a minute or less, can you sort of let the neighborhood know why the city would take 100% fee out? What, that is a large sum of money.
Would you get how much damage?
Yes, it's several millions of dollars actually. It's close to $10 million in a fee out. Just to be clear, what that means is when a project fees out or pays an in lieu fee or a part of the fee, those funds come into a restricted fund that the city has specifically for affordable housing. And that either allows us to contribute to projects, buy down affordability levels of projects, buy land for affordable housing, or put money into projects, say the Royal Oaks project, which was a project that was supporting rapid rehousing and agricultural workers. So that fund is used exclusively for housing and nothing else. In terms of weighing the merits of a project fee now or not, there are several factors that we do look at. One of the factors that we do consider in projects ultimately is the city has a regional housing needs allocation goal of so many units to be developed at a range of affordable levels, going from low, very low, moderate, and then market rate homes. That is something, depending on where we are in terms of meeting those goals with the state of California, we consider in a project. We also look at just access and where these projects are located. In terms of the product type, is this the right product type for affordable units? Is there actually access to other amenities that would support affordable units? So we look at a myriad of options on whether this makes sense to fee out or not. And I will just footnote, for some projects, you can fee out half of the project and build the other project. This particular case was 100% fee out.
Thank you. Any further follow-up on that, Commissioner? No? Not seeing any else. I also didn't have any additional items on my comments list, so I'll go ahead and maybe bring it back to the commission if you want to go one by one. Share any comments before we.
No further questions.
Comments, questions as we go on.
I'll make a quick comment. I'll give you some space here to get some questions. But, first of all, thank you everybody for coming down. We love the participation. We're residents too. We have the same concerns. We've expressed over the last few years the concerns around traffic flow. There's been quite a number, you may not know, but there's been quite a number of improvements to this project over the years to address that to the best of our ability. Does that mean there's not any traffic problems? No. I think there'll be times and days where it may well back up, right? Just like I live on Watsonville and Santa Teresa, and man, that backed up pretty badly too some days. But just have to learn to deal with it. I hope we've addressed most of your questions. I know they're not completely relevant to tonight, but because they were asked, I really appreciate staff making the commentary and giving the best possible answers. But I would say to what Joe brought up earlier, there are three elements that we have to consider. I would be supportive. I don't see any reason why we would not approve. And we know this is one step in a multi-step process. There's more to come. But with that said, I'll pass it on to Paul.
Thank you. I have quite a list here, but I think is were addressed. I just have two remaining. And first of all, I want to thank all the folks that showed up. You know, the stuff that you said is, you're living in that neighborhood, this is gonna be a major impact, and so we hear you. The last of the two that I have is around traffic volume and safety. Tiffany, we keep mentioning the hexagonal report. Is it one company we use all the time? Could we get a second opinion on the traffic? Because, you know, I keep hearing that if you add, you know, 1,200 cars to 1,700 cars in that small space, it's a lot of traffic. You add that to the schools, and to me, it just doesn't resonate with me that the traffic report could come back and say it's all good. Can we get a second opinion on the traffic? Is that possible?
So, I can interject, so as part of the review process, we have standards that we follow, there's standards that Hexagon follows as well under the traffic report. There are multiple staff members that review these reports as well. So it's not just taking, the review process by Hexagon, but we have internal staff, multiple staff that reviews it from planning, as well as from our engineer and land development divisions. So there's a lot of internal review, that we make sure that it's in compliance, with the ITE manual, that's followed by throughout the state. And there's modeling that occurs as well that do these sort of reviews for traffic reports. And so when we do scope projects like this through a secret review process, we can no longer evaluate LOS for CEQA purposes, but we still conduct level of service reviews outside of CEQA. And so when we do these studies, we also ask for those scopes and we review how they are proposing those scopes. And when we do receive those reports, we have like our engineers review these as well for consistency and for feedback review. So there is internal consistency and internal checks.
We see the results of your reviews. Just point of order, the public comment is currently closed. However, when it does come to further information, I believe, CSAP, you have that information on the reviews, EIR, available online.
Yes, sir. And those reports are public information. They are provided, from that one, it was provided in 2024 when that application was approved for the plan development.
And where can they specifically find that?
So regarding any questions, anyone can contact our offices, asking those questions. We should have that information on our website, the transit. Hold up, but there is a project page for this project and there's additional information on there. And the reports and things posted on there for the EIR.
He's correct, it's on the project webpage.
And it's on the city of Northern Office.
Thanks, the only other question I had there was one concerning the Sanchez property. It looks like that is gonna be slap bang where we want to put that roundabout. Am I correct?
So that's where the intersection is on Hill and Barrett. We do not know the exact location of that roundabout. It's still something that we're going to review through detail. It's something that we will review prior to the design permit coming to the planning commission when that is submitted. If there's anything additional that our engineering team would like to add. But as of right now, we do not know the exact layout of that, but it's go through a review process as well.
I believe in the conditions, there is a condition that asks for that roundabout to be redesigned from this plan to minimize the impact on that particular lot.
That is correct. So some preliminary exhibits were provided during the tentative map. And we identified that this was potentially impacting the driveways on the Sanchez property. And so we've asked that roundabout be shifted and some of the design parameters be revisited during design review to minimize that impact because it's so close to the intersection. So we're trying to shift that north to keep it within the already dedicated right of way of Barrett for that property.
Commissioner, if I may just follow up on that, because I know, one of the public comments, when Joshua, mentioned something in relation to that, and that was the other three conditions I believe he had mentioned. Are those conditions currently in the conditions report that we have, or did not all make it?
I'm not remembering specifically, I know some of them were about communication, which the city intends during the design review and permit to reach out to these property owners, coordinate. Unfortunately, we haven't nailed down a design quite yet that we would like to present to those property owners, which is why nobody's reached out quite yet to provide those. So this shift is one of those things where we're trying to nail down exactly where it's going and where we think we can put it with minimizing that impact before we reach out to those property owners. We have had one of the property owners reach out to Chris Gioni, our public services director, to try to set up a meeting and discuss this. So there will be outreach to those property owners during the design review process and make sure that they're included and we address their concerns in this design.
I see, Edith heading to the podium. Edith, are you gonna say something?
Good evening, Commission, good evening, teammates and community. Just pulling up the IHO requirement, the affordable housing requirement, just for the record, and clarification, since this was a project that came before us before our housing director joined the city. The developer is required to pay the obligation of the project, which is 15% at whatever rate they are ready to pull permits. At the time the project was approved, the obligation was 17,290,000. 17,290,391. So I just wanted to correct that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner, go ahead, please.
I just had a question about the roundabout. When you say minimize the impact, are you talking about location or the size of it? Because if you reduce the size, is it gonna affect large trucks trying to use it?
That is a great question. So intersections are prescribed by what we call the inscribed circle, which is the outer diameter. And there's a range that we can fit in for this particular size roundabout, this type of roundabout. And so those are one of the things that are in consideration. Center point, it can be moved and roads shifted so that we can meet design speeds. And also the driveways in this, we're trying to minimize what the impact is, but a couple of them are very close to the intersection. So trying to figure out what the best configuration is there to maintain property access as best we can.
All right, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner?
I don't have a further question, but I'm ready to.
I just have maybe a couple of questions before we go ahead and proceed with that. The one I have, this kind of brings me back because this is one of the situations that we're obviously seeing a lot more now than ever, which is wildfires, evacuations, et cetera. And it was already addressed a little bit by city staff. But I think I'm just going back to the initial fire marshal review process. Are they looking at typical circumstances, or are they really looking at these instances where, again, act of God, once in a lifetime, evacuation processes, et cetera? Do you know or happen to know the details of what the fire marshal looks at? And based off what they come up with, intended not feedback and send eventually?
Great, we did defer to Adam because I know he works more on that type of emergency access to their general plan.
Okay.
I had the fire marshal for the committee for you to come, so.
So it's all the above, what you just stated. So it is reviewed, for life and safety for, there are state fire codes that are followed, that our fire marshal follows when reviewing these types of projects. And there's different standards that are in play, especially if it's in a high or very high fire zone. This property is a little bit lower. I do not know the particulars that it was reviewed on by the fire marshal or our fire to the fire code, but if it was reviewed and it was kind of consistent and that's proposal and there are conditions included, there are standard conditions included for this project.
And maybe one final question is tied to some of those comments in that we also talked about it a little bit briefly was the Barrett access, and you shared a little bit about some of the difficulties with having access via Barrett. Is it impossible or is it just really difficult and complex?
Are you referring to the hill or Barrett?
I'm sorry, did I say, I believe it was Barrett, was the. Oh, it was Hill, yes, sorry, Hill.
So this would have been analyzed with the traffic, if there was a need, usually these are based off what the proposed project is.
Yeah.
And they identify what the impacts are and make recommendations accordingly. Circulation is one of them. So I would expect that there would be a recommendation for another access off of Hill Road. And when it was analyzed by the traffic consultant. But it is not impossible, but it is based on how many jurisdictions are involved, the creek is difficult, yes.
Okay, and is that too complex to make a change at this time, given where we're at with tentative map? Because as you're sharing earlier, we cannot make significant changes to the tentative map if we wanted to explore further, right?
Yeah, we would have to see what those changes are before we can figure out if it's a substantial change or not.
Okay.
So if we add a new access, the question, if we add a new access from the project to Hill Road, would that be a substantial change? And the answer is yes, that would be a substantial change to the PD and to the map. Because the PD does not have that access point at this time, and it was not required for that some study.
May I just be clear?
Yeah.
The way the question was posed was, in my mind, almost suggesting like it's something we should look at. But the answer I heard was actually, it's not the preferred design, that it would create a less safe environmental and non-traffic flow standards.
Yeah, and
So I just want to be clear, we're not actually asking and suggesting we should look at that.
I actually was coming in specifically for CNF that was proposed for the general plan, looks at outside connections. And that goes into it requiring subdivisions to provide multiple connections to the surrounding community. And so as I'm trying to make that determination is to see whether or not we really explored all of those possible connections, even though they are complex. But with that general plan insight on, yeah, if it's impossible versus a really complex ones obviously will need safety measures to control and maybe traffic light, et cetera, that will just again make it really complex with other agencies. So there are ways to go around the safety. I'm just looking at one of the general plan items that we're looking for when it comes to making that resolution and making those findings. So really, again, I'm coming in with that general plan findings that we have to make and using that to see whether we're really hitting all of those. Any other questions?
I just want to make a clarification on one of my statements about the fire review. So it took me a second to pull up the conditions and to read the notes from fire. So there, as part of the map review, there are no conditions on the map. Those additional conditions that I was thinking about would come at design review phase. But our fire division has reviewed the map and is consistent with the West area and for access.
Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the road.
Go
Right. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving the tentative map.
Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mueller and a second by Commissioner Adamo. We'll go ahead and open it.
Can I make just one comment on this discussion board? One of the speakers tonight requested that there be a forum that had the city, the applicant, and the neighborhood having a discussion. In the old days, before the state got into writing really new detailed and complex rules, that might have been possible. But in today's regulation environment, that public meeting would account for one of the meetings that we are held to, and might be very difficult to fit into the streamline that. That's just a fact of the rules that the city has to operate under. Just like there's a rule that says we have a 60-day period after the project is deemed complete to approve the tentative map. It's not that we don't want to have one, it's just the timing set by the state really doesn't allow us to do that. The timing doesn't impact the applicant doing something, but if the city's involved, it becomes problematic. Okay, so we hear it, and it's very frustrating because I personally have participated in lots of those meetings that help explain things in years gone by, right? But under today's rules, we just cannot do that.
Any other discussion? I'll maybe just add, as of right now, just based off of that discussion, I'm still a little bit held on the outside connections for the general plan consistency that we're looking for. And I know we have a really tight timeline as well for either approving it, not doing anything, and the approval goes automatically without having those conditions in place. And so I would err on the side of the comments we've received so far that have really touched on the outside connections component of general plan consistency that we're looking for. And so for myself, I think at this time, I'm leaning more towards the denial. Any other comments? So we have a little time a second, and we can do a roll call.
Chair Habib,
May.
Vice Chair Lee,
Aye.
Commissioners Mueller,
Aye.
Deoni.
Aye.
Adama
Aye.
and Wilson.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1-0-1.
All right, thank you all for your comments. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, there is another public hearing time coming up where we can get into a lot more detail of the design review, design permit stage. That will be a planning commission meeting. And I want to thank you all for hanging in there tonight on our 35 or 40-minute delay. All of your, we appreciate everybody's comments, right? We always want to hear, right? And we always hear, sometimes you can do things, but sometimes we can't.
Thank you. And with that said, once again, there is going to be one more public hearing that comes before the planning commission, and that will be the design review. So thank you all for your comments. And we are going to go ahead and move on to the director's report / announcements.
I don't have any certain, like some break from. Sorry, I was gonna ask him if it should be summer break.
So my computer froze, I was trying to, put my notes for director's reports. On my calendar, so. The next planning commission meeting is on August 20. If I can ask the public to.
Point of order, please, if you can please silently, if you are moving out, please do so. It's not distract the continuation of the meeting.
Next time is when?
August, so the next meeting is on August 25th. We will have a planning commission meeting that day. There's a couple items that we are looking to bring forward. So our housing director will have an item about housing policies that we are looking to move forward, and bring to the commission that night. And with my computer frozen, I can't recall any other notes that I had. So.
Technology is.
That's why they're called lights, right?
Now,
So the city council is back in session next week on August 19th. They will have goal setting on August 26th, now that I recall that. And so there will be a presentation, or a PowerPoint presentation or information rather, from staff, about goal setting and updates from the different divisions there, and I mean, share that with the planning commission as well.
Any other questions, clarifications? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn today's planning commission.
Yeah.